Estonia has long been heralded as a purveyor of next-generation technologies. Which are the areas that you are looking to distinguish yourself in with regards to digitalization over the next few years?
Frankly, when we started, we didn't look to distinguish ourselves. We thought that everybody would do it in a couple of years, and we hope that if we start early, maybe we get it done cheaper because our sandbox is interesting to play in. But we've now indeed realized that we might perpetuate this advantage into the future by always scanning the horizon for new technologies and creating a legally permissive space for these technologies to be used in our society quite widely. And what has made us the country we are now in technologies is not technology itself. It is exactly this. We are creative in legal space making. We have legal base which makes people feel safe using technology like e-government services, for example, protects government itself while providing these services, and also private bodies who are providing these services. So it's a clear framework, I would say much stricter than GDPR, which makes Estonia a state where government runs online. Similarly, we are trying to understand how the artificial intelligence in its narrow format, but thinking also of the future when it gets well, more cognitive, one might say, how this could be used in our society. And since we are quick adapters, we already have the questions which will only arise when you really start using this technology. We do not want to limit the use of technology. We need to protect the personal data of people. But does that mean that all gathering of data by private entities needs to be forbidden? If so, is government ready to, well, gather all the data, anonymize it, and then give it out for free use, like we have been doing with the Estonian Genome Foundation for 20 years already? We have some experience in protecting the data and allowing data mining at the same time. Or can, for example, this be also delegated? Because if you think of the paper world, we did tell the doctors, for example, that you need to keep the information on the patients safe. And then we let them to handle it the way they found fit to make sure they are in compliance with the demand of the state. In digital, somehow we tried to tell more to our enterprises than this simple thing, keep it safe, and I mean dispose of it safely when it's not needed anymore. We tend to prescribe the exact path on how to. Should we or shouldn't we? These are the questions we need to discuss in order to, well, be ready for the technology-rich environment around us.
Now, coming back to your point on artificial intelligence, of course, within the first 100 days of the next Commission, Commission President Delegate Ursula von der Leyen is due to present an artificial intelligence and ethics approach. What do you think the relationship is generally between AI and ethics, and what's your stance on the matter?
As close to the paper world as possible is our suggestion, and I just gave this example about doctors and data. We need to keep it as simple as we did it on the paper, and then we need to have, of course, an audit and monitoring system by which companies can demonstrate to us, to public, that they are applying these criteria which we have set. If we start creating something, well, different for the technology world, then that would mean we would be regulating a concrete level of technology of today, but this would be gone in 5 years' time. As we know, our legal cycle tends to take, well, 3 years, 5 years sometimes. So we are in the new environment globally where technological cycle is much shorter than legal cycle. For example, you had 100 years to create the proper traffic code for today's cars from the first cars when they were delivered. Didn't we? We did. Now this is gone. So we must try to legislate in tech-neutral way so that it will carry us also through the next tech cycles without too much adjustments. Therefore, it needs to be general.
Could you talk a bit more about your e-governance infrastructure in Estonia and how perhaps these initiatives have helped foster wider political or maybe even environmental goals?
We haven't actually sought any political gains from having an e-governance system. It's just a government which is efficient and effective. Politically totally neutral thing, I have to say. If I think of the future, then it of course makes sure that we are, because we use it, we are more informed as a public sector and as parliament, as government about new technologies. And this obviously makes our friends and partners to listen to us when we talk about these things. So we would also in the future want to be this positive sandbox, because I claim that Europe wouldn't have EIDAS, the digital ID exchange system, in place if Estonia had not been, well, for 20 years developing a system which clearly demonstrates that people need a passport in digital world as they also had it in the analog world. Coming to the climate issue, then of course the new energy models will need flexibility also on the customer side, on the consumer side, which is new for the networks. Previously it was somewhere was a huge power plant which catered for all maximum needs. Now there will be a diverse production, wind, solar, some batteries. Water is the best battery, as we say in the Nordic countries still, so pump storage plants, everything. And we will also be able to regulate flexibly the customer side. And all this, of course, involves a lot of technology, because we are not going to switch stuff on and off ourselves according to the peak and low prices. Peak and low prices will indicate for us what is the need to hold back on consumption, or that you can consume rather freely at the moment. So all this is tech-rich. And we have already for several years smart meters in every house in Estonia. And since now there is the market on Nord Pool starts to kind of happen, where avoiding consuming, for example, can also be made into money, then there are first packages and first experiments trying to, put together consumers who are able to win from the fact that they are ready not to consume for 15 minutes, for example. It's only starting now, and all these technologies, not necessarily like rocket science, but putting all these little things together takes a lot of effort. So it's very much a beta version on Nord Pool, as much as I've understood, but it's interesting to see where it goes.
Thank you very much for your time today, Madam President.
Thank you.